Well, welcome everyone. It's our pleasure today to host Mr. Monroe Duncan, President of Southern Precision Spring Company. Mr. Duncan is a graduate of Appalachian State, where he received his BSBA in economics. Great to have you here with us today, Mr. Duncan.
It's great to be here, Grace. Thanks.
Thank you. Could you please tell us a bit about your academic and professional background, and if there's any personal details you'd like to add, that's great.
Sure. I'm a native North Carolinian. I was born in Charlotte. I love the outdoors, and I decided to go to Appalachian State, and I majored in business and economics. I took a little sidetrack 2 years into school and moved out to Colorado to learn to ski. And I really learned a lot of life lessons in Colorado. I learned the difference between good people and bad people, and being outside the umbrella of your parents taking care of you all the time. So I came back at a lot more of a mature state, and I think it did me a lot of good. I came back and I met my wife, Jill, loved my life, and I got much more serious about the economics when I came back before that I left. I was a little more focused on what I wanted to do. I guess it had to do with maturity or growing up. And then, being in Boone, one of the reasons I went up there is I enjoyed the hiking, the skiing, the camping, especially the trout fishing. So it was a good experience.
That's very interesting. Must have been a good period.
It was.
So could you tell us more about what your company does, and if you have any stories about your company?
Sure. I own and operate Southern Precision Spring, which was a 60-year-old family company. I've got 31 employees. We make mechanical springs at a round wire from the size of your hair to the size of your thumb. Some of the customer groups I've got are like lawn and garden, lawnmowers per se, weed eaters, that kind of thing. We're in Husqvarna. We do another particular riding mower called the Bad Boy, which is a Z-turn machine, and we do all of those guys' springs. We do some things in motion furniture. Actually, at one point in time, that was 40% of our business. We do a lot with the Leggett's and the Lazy Boy, which you basically think of when you think of motion furniture. We do different applications in the second-tier automotive trucking industry, like Fontaine Truck, where the cab hooks to the trailer. There's 5 or 6 springs in there, and we do 4 or 5 companies that are in that realm. Basically, all do the same thing with different designs. And then we do a cable company called Kongsberg Automotive. It's the cable in your automobile. So that just gives you a kind of a roundabout of what we do at Southern Precision Spring. But I'm going to tell a little story that kind of tells my role and how it's changed from start to finish.
Yes, please.
And 42 years ago, I guess I came out of college and decided that I wanted to go work for my dad, which I'm not sure is good or bad. At this point in time, it's very good for me. I was very blessed by that. To spend as much time as I did with him. But let me see, where was I going with that? My dad died 6 years ago. And when he passed away, my brother decided that he wanted to go a different direction, which was fine. And when he left, we immediately lost about 80% of the motion furniture to China. And it was just something that was going to happen. Easier to make springs go different places around the world. But the Chinese basically took over the motion furniture. And at the same time, I lost 40% of the largest account I had to a company that went from residential to commercial. So they just cut the volumes way back. And then I had a series of other problems that went along. My general manager had a heart attack 3 years ago, and he never was able to come back to work. He retired, and then I've lost 2 or 3 key employees. And the thing about the spring business is not just business part, but the knowing about the springs. Yeah. And so we had a tough time getting those folks back, but I've gotten 3 or 4 really good guys and helped me bring it back to center. And we've been very blessed by been able to bring it back to about $1 million less than we were. And then all of a sudden the virus hit. We had 3 more bad months, but then 4 weeks ago, I was very blessed by having 4 days of some of the best orders I've had in maybe 4 or 5 months. So we're back on track again. And I say all that to say this, that success is a journey, not a destination, and that you need to persevere and stay motivated through the bad times as well as the good times, because it will pay dividends, and I think good things happen. So it's truly a blessing for me.
Thank you for sharing that lesson.
Sure.
For us to hear that. What's the best thing you like about your job?
My favorite part is the freedom that gives me of what I can do daily. I can come in and if I want to do marketing one day or value added stuff like putting foam inside of a spring or assemblies, I can work on that, or I can work on individuals, personnel, where we can get better, where people need to go to do some outside studying or schooling in a quality department or something like that. Or if I want to do mission work for 2 days, there's no one can tell me I can't do that. So it gives you a lot of freedom to do what you want to do. And that's just a wonderful thing. And at the end of the day, when you have a problem, it's all on you. And in a lot of ways, I find that very satisfying because even if the problem is there, it kind of keeps you moving forward. So that's the best part of it.
What kind of quality system does your company follow?
We have an ISO 9002, and we just had our audit, I guess it was 3 or 4 months ago, right before the pandemic. Matter of fact, the time when the pandemic hit was pretty much when we were at our audit. So that's a good thing.
Yes. Are the parts that you use to make those springs, do you make them or do you buy the parts and then assemble it? Or what's the process of making it?
The process of making the spring is, let me answer that with the changes through time. Can I do that? How things have changed? One of the ways that when I first started working in the mid-70s, we take a spring like this and it wouldn't have ends on it. And we'd coil that spring into a container, take it back to secondary, and individuals would take that spring and go like this and put an end on it, and then go like this, put another end on it. Then they'd put it back into the container, take it to what we call the oven room or the stress relief process, would pull it out of the container into baskets, through it at the gas oven, back into the container, and then to shipping and put them in barrels, drums, or boxes. Now we scan it when it comes, material comes in, we scan the material, we scan it into inventory, we scan it to the job. This job is made complete now instead of being touched by second or third or fourth hand. And it comes through an oven in 14 to 17 minutes. You can check the part and do quality immediately on it, which greatly enhances our ability to do SBC and quality things to the part. We can put a color code on it. We can shoot foam inside of it. We can put a rust band on it that's water-based. And then we can put it to a box, to a pallet, shrink wrap it, and straight to shipping. So as far as the tools, your first question, I think probably most of the tools we make, the machine comes with a set of tools, all wire size. When you've got wire sizes from the size of your hair to the size of your thumb, you're going to use different sets of grooves to run through there. But as they break, we repair them and basically move forward that way. We do buy some outside tools, some carbide and things like that, but most everything's internally made.
I wanted to ask whether you use a push or a pull kind of system, the demand for your product.
I would say we use a push. So we bring material in and push it through and either put it in finished goods or in the customer's hands as quick as we can. I mean, absolutely just as fast as we can go.
I guess that
sometimes 3 shifts, sometimes 2 shifts.
yes, that makes sense because of the kind of product you're making. Not that much individualization of the springs, like different orders. It's a mass produced thing.
Right. Most of our orders are over 100,000 pieces, and we like to do it that way so that one guy can run 4 machines, run multiple machines at the same time. That's just the way we built our business or our niche.
Yes. What's the biggest headache you have with your job?
People. Making the springs, shipping the springs, designing the springs, selling the springs are all easy. But if you take 25 people and all put them together, you're going to have 4 or 5 that have personal problems. And I don't mean personal problems as in drugs or things, very simple things where they don't get along or whatnot. And then they kind of bring that to work, and not so much in not getting along, but they're either late or they're tardy or they've got financial issues. And it's not necessarily the same people all the time, but the people problem is a big headache for us, because when you're trying to run an automated system, when one person lays out that's very skilled, it throws a monkey wrench. Somebody else has to get back in or move over or change the plan of what you were doing. And when you've got schedules that go out 6 and 8 weeks, much as similar as textile mills used to be in the South.
How have you seen this industry change since you've been in it?
Well, that was kind of the answer of the question where
Yes.
the looping of the springs and whatnot. It's one of the things, everything is automated. And I'll add that one of the big changes, saving people's times, like a manager or one of our girls in customer service or one of our sales guys can pick up the computer and look at the computer, and he can go on and see if any materials been put to a job. If he's got a part number, he can tell time put to the job. If it's got an outside service like plating, he can see if it's at the plater, and so he knows when it's going to ship, versus having to call and ask a question, and that person calls the next person, the plant manager. And that's the way it used to be. We used to have a set of walkie-talkies. And so the automation of software and the automation of machinery and processes inside the manufacturing system really helps. You run 3 times as much material through, except for the price of the springs is less now than it was in 1975. So
That's a big change.
it is a big change.
Do you have any lessons or advice you could give to current students who may want to pursue this field as a career?
Sure. I'm not sure they necessarily go into the spring business, but just overall, I would say the first one would be you need to love or like what you do, whether it's a sport, a hobby, or your job. Because if you don't, you're not going to be able to apply yourself and do well with that job. I mean, it's real important that you that you like what you do, that you have pride in what you do. I think you're wasting time in life if you don't. That's the first one. The second would be the first 5 years after you graduate are probably the most important years for opportunity in your life as far as working. You go to work doing something, if you're just kind of going through time and space and not really caring, life's going to pass you by. But if you focus and bear down, even if you don't necessarily like it as much at the first part as you do later on down the road, you'll get benefits for the next 20 years. And I've got many examples. One is a fellow that had a company that he sold dyeing machines, and the dyeing machine company went belly up, but he took an engineer, made a patent, and now he sells 2 dyeing machines at over $150,000 a piece to Fruit of the Loom, to Honduras, and he can't see the end of it. So it's a wonderful business for him, and he subs out all the manufacture of the dyeing machines. So basically all he does is sell and install. So that's a perseverance kind of thing. The third one would be, and this is a personal thing with me, I wish I'd have started a long time ago, is get up early. Because there's so many things you can do when you get up early. Bible study, you can exercise, you can get on the internet and gather news if you're a broker or a financer. You can go to work and get your job done without people being all around talking to you, and then help other people, which is going to help you come up that ladder. So I guess those are my 3 things on life lessons.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan.
Sure.
I had a question. Did you grow up and ever think that you would take part in your father's business, or did you think you'd do something else?
I thought I'd do something else. Until I came back from skiing, and then I kind of started thinking about, that'd be kind of neat working with your father. And then it wasn't always neat, and it wasn't always fun, but I learned a lot. He was a great mentor. He really knew how to work hard and play hard. He taught me a lot about hunting and fishing, which I passed on to my son, my oldest son. My youngest son doesn't have that bug, but he was really a good mentor teacher. So
Last question. What do you like to do for fun?
uh, I could last for 30 minutes. Let's see. I love fly fishing. I like to fly fish in the ocean for albacore, mai, drums. It doesn't really matter. I like trout fishing too, mostly with a fly rod. I just love fly fishing. Beekeeping is close to my heart. I think it's a very godly sport. I just think every time you open the beehive, the way it's designed is just absolutely awesome with a five-sided um, uh, basically a hole for the bee to put eggs and honey in, and it gives you the max amount of space. And about the time you think you know a lot about bees and growing bees, and I'm on my 5th or 6th year, you get humbled real fast because in the springtime, bees will build, if they don't have enough space, like a tree, they can build on up. If they don't have enough space in the hive, they'll build queen cells. And then the oldest queen and the majority of bees will leave in a swarm, and they'll just leave you with the new queen, which will build itself back up, but that kind of defeats the purpose on making honey. So I love beekeeping. It's fun because I don't know as much about it as some of the other things. But my favorite probably thing to do is I love antiquities. I love collecting things and chasing things like Southern antiques, furniture, blankets, quilts, pottery, paper, all kinds of things. It's just fun. And I've started recently um, uh, chasing Presbyterian things, and that's kind of a neat thing. The disruption brooch is my newest Presbyterian thing. So those are some of the things I like to do when I'm not working.
Thank you, Mr. Duncan. It's been very edifying to hear about all you've done in your work and the lessons you've shared with us. And thank you for taking the time to share your business experience and expertise with us today. It's valuable for me as a student to see what it's like to be actually in the workforce and working, getting your hands on things every day, as I'm in the classroom studying. So
You need to take some time off and come work for me for a little while. You may find you like spring making.
yes. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. It's our pleasure to have had this interview with you, Mr. Duncan. Thank you.
Thank you, Grace.
Okay.